What's up guys, welcome to new Unreal Engine 5 tutorial. Today we're continuing with the RPG Tutorial Series, and in this episode we will save the quest system and also the time of day. It's going to be a very easy video to follow, so let's get started. Alright, so in the previous episode we saved all of the player's stats, right? The health, stamina, level XP, and also the inventory. Now in this one we have left two things, which is of course the quest, right, in which one we're actually right now doing, and of course also the time of day for our another level. So let's begin by going ahead and saving the quest system, right? So first of all, let's go back into our blueprints folder and open up our BP save game. As you may remember, this class is basically the one that contains all of the variables to essentially go and save our stats that we want. In this case, we just simply want to add new ones, which is going to be the ones that we require. And the ones are the following, right? If we go into our descriptions and so on, we can access them, but let's just go and do this directly. So we need to add a new variable over here, right? And the first one that we need is the active quest text, right? If I know how to type. So this is essentially just the active quest that we have over here, and it's going to be type string, right? Because it's a simple text. Then we're going to have the active quest, and in this case description, right? We also need to save the description of the active quest, which is again going to be a string. Then we're going to need the active quest, and then in this case it's going to be completed, right? So I'm going to save if the quest is completed or not, so this will be simply a boolean. And then we will also need the active quest objectives, okay? And in this case this will be an array, right? In this case you may remember that is using the quest objective structure, right? Let's compile, and with this selected, let's go and change the variable type over here to an array. So now it will essentially be a list, right, of objectives. And then we just need to add another variable, which will be the active quest, and in this case secondary, right? If it's secondary or not, so this will simply be a boolean, and we need to also go and set this back to single, right? Because it's a single variable that we turn on or off, right? With that said, we have all of the variables that we need in the save game blueprint. Okay, cool. So with that said, now we just simply need to go into our game mode and implement the functionality to save and load these new variables. So let's go to our world settings in our level, go into the game mode override, and just click on the browse, and double click on the third person game mode. As you may remember, this is the blueprint that we built to save everything. So we essentially have here the save game custom event, where we basically just collect all of the variables that we need, right, and just save them into the slide. And this is exactly what we're going to do. So first of all, let's go and just get this two nodes, okay? Just put it back over here so we have some space to add the new ones, right? We will basically continue over here in our timeline, right, of a lot of variables that we need to save. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do, okay, is simply go and save all the variables that we need, right? So we need to go from the save game BP and just add them. So let's go over here, right? And the first one that we're going to be adding is going to be the active quest text, right? So it is over, what is it? Well, let's type it in. Well, it's not text. It is text, right? Active quest text. Yeah, it is. Okay. Well, let's extract it again. Active quest description. Wow, okay, wait, what? Why I'm not getting the... Okay, that's actually pretty interesting. Oh, because I typed it wrong, sorry. Okay, well, make sure, okay, that you are right now going ahead and making sure that all your spelling is like that, okay? That was a purpose, demonstration. Anyway, now yes, I can go ahead and just drag in active quest text, right? I want to of course set it, right? So in this case, let's go ahead and just put over here, and of course we're getting this information from the save game BP, right? So again, I'm gonna set the in this case it will be the description. Okay, so let's add it over here. Okay, cool. Let's go back over here. The next one after that will essentially be the set, and I think it's the secondary, right? Let's try to keep it in the same order just because it's gonna be simpler, right, and easier to maintain. And then we just need two other variables, so let me expand this a bit more over here, right? And it's gonna essentially just be the objectives, right? Or, well, because we have two booleans, let's put them you know, the same. So that was secondary. Let's do completed, right? Active quest secondary, completed. And now I think we need just one more, which is the list of objectives. So set objectives, right? Oh wait, that's weird. Set quest objectives. There we go. Cool. All right, so now we can actually just plug this in and plug this in over here, and then just put this over here. Cool. So with that, we can just compile and save. And of course we have errors, right? Because we need to fill this in, and in this case this one doesn't have a default value. So of course we need to collect all of this from our BPC component, which, as you may remember, if we go to the quest system and we open up BPC quest, you can see that we have some information here as the active quest, and this is essentially where we're going to be grabbing the majority of our information from, right? Because it's a struct and it will contain what we need: the name, the description, if it's secondary, if it's completed, and the objectives, and so on, right? And the reason is that we're, you know, splitting all of this and not just directly sending the whole struct is that really Unreal Engine doesn't work very well, you know, when setting references by struct. So it's better to split it and have it individually and then fit it in. Okay, that's why we're basically splitting everything into little parts, right? And also on top of that, we have more control. Imagine that you don't want to save specific things, we could also do that. If you save the whole thing, that wouldn't work. Okay, so now let's go back to our game mode, right? And we essentially just go to get from the player, right? I need to access the get BPC, right? Go down and we can see the quest. So from here is where we're gonna be grabbing everything, right? So first of all, we need to grab the active quest variable. So let's grab it, and now we can simply just right click and split it, and now we have all of the information. So it is as simple as getting the active quest name, plugging into the text, description to the description, if it's secondary to secondary, if it's completed to completed, and then finally the quest objectives into the quest objectives, right? We can now compile, save, and there we go. We are essentially going ahead and saving all of our variables in the, you know, save game BP with our information of our active quest struct, right? And we have it all in different variables, which is cool. And then we just simply make sure to connect this. Okay, remember guys, to connect it to the save game to slot, and then print the string, and we know that we saved. Cool, so that is the saving, you know, done. But of course now we need to go ahead and do the loading, right? So for this, let's go to the load player parameters custom event, which is where we load everything. And we are just gonna simply make some space over here, right? Cool. So now essentially what we need to do is, you know, save all, well, not save, sorry, that's already done, is load all this stuff, right? So for this, what we're going to do is very straightforward, right? So first of all, from here, we will need to get from the player, right? We need to get the BPC once again quest, right? Because of course we need to now fit this in. And what we need to do, okay, is simply just need to get the active quest variable, right? And we need to specifically use this node, which is set, and then it is by reference, okay? And this allows us to right click and split on this and fitting all of the values, right? So we are manually going ahead and overriding and just applying each variable in the struct, right, for active quest. And this is very straightforward, right? The only thing that we need to do right now is get the save game BP, because it will be already, you know, loaded in and saved in here, and just get all the information. So it will be first of all the active quest text, right, which is essentially the name. I don't know why I didn't name it text instead of name, but the same thing. Then we need to of course get the quest description, so let's also plug this in. We also need to get if it's the secondary or not, so let's also go ahead and just plug this in. Then we also of course need to plug if it's completed or not, so once again we'll plug this over here. And then finally, okay, we need the list of objectives, right, which is an array. So let's go ahead and also drag this over here into the value of objectives, and that's pretty much it. But there's two little things that we need still, okay? So if we go to BPC quest, you can see that when we load things in, right, what we do is the following, which is set the quest text and set the objectives, right? We call them, okay, these two from the widget, okay? But in this case, when we load the game, we don't press on a button to select, you know, the quest that we want on the widget, it automatically loads. So we need to manually call this to nodes, which essentially, you know, pulls in all the UI, right? As you can see, show quest panel, we fill the objectives into the HUD, things like that. So we just simply need to go here, get from the BPC quest component, right, and call the set active quest text call function. Okay, cool. And then we need to do exactly the same with the set objectives, right? And of course it will be again another custom event call function. So with that custom events done, we are good to go. Okay, we are essentially now just fitting all the variables of our save game right over here, and then load them in back up into the active quest, right? But there's an issue. Okay, let me explain this. Okay, so I'm gonna go and just press play, right? And okay, I actually need to delete one thing, okay, which is very important. And actually there's one thing, okay, that I need to delete, which is these two things. Okay, say, well, what are you deleting right now? Well, you probably have it like this. Okay, because of my testing, I forgot to remove these two things that we need to add, but you can see that there were delays, and let me show you what happens, right? So essentially, if I press play, you can see that there's no HUD at the top left, right? And if I exit, we have an error. So what is happening? Well, first of all, let me go and make sure that I reset my game, right? I want to start a new save, right? So I can show you guys exactly how this works, right? So I'm gonna simply just go and create another key, right? So for example, let's put one separated. Let's put like 8 or something like that, right? And let me just go and delete the save game. So delete save slot, right? And I don't know what slot we're using actually. It is what we can see over here, right? We are using save 1. Okay, so we need to type the save 1, and the user index will be here, right? So now if I go and press 8, exit, and go back in, right, you can see now I have a new save, right? Cool. So what I am going to do is essentially go right and pick up a quest, right? So my quest giver will have the dialog. I'm gonna select the first one that we have and select the quest, right? You can see that now we have this, you know, panel at the top left, right? It fills in. Cool. And if I now go and press my character, go to details, and go to the BPC quest, right, we can see the active quest and it loads, right? We have the 2 objectives and we have the name, all the inputs, the description, all this stuff, right? Cool. But now if I go and press 5 to save the game, right, very important, and then exit and go back in, you can see that the widget doesn't appear, right? But if I go and press my player, go to the component, you can see that it is loaded, right? We have the all inputs, we have all objectives, everything is working. The only thing that isn't working is the widget, and we have these errors because of this. So the only thing that we need to do is go to the BPC quest, and essentially in the set active quest text and set objectives, we just need to add a little delay, which will work with it until next tick, right? So it will basically wait until the next frame to load the widgets, and that is just letting time for the game mode to load everything in, because if now we are trying to access this variable which is empty and we have an error, okay? But now if I press play, boom, as you can see, because I saved before, right, we have all the inputs loaded in. I know there's a spelling mistake there, but doesn't really matter. We have the objectives loaded, which is cool. Alright, so right now everything is working, but you may notice that when I go and just open a chest, I level up, things like that, right? The objective is marked as complete. As you can see, there's a little tick. I go and press 5 to save, right? Exit, go back in. You may notice that the objective is not marked. So what happened? Well, if I go back to my BPC quest, you may notice that it actually didn't even save on the struct, right? It didn't save on the widget nor on the struct. So the thing is that we need to manually go ahead and update that active quest struct, right? If it makes sense. So we're gonna go back to the BPC quest, right? And we're gonna go into each of this, right? So let's begin with the open chest one, which is more straightforward, right? In this case. So the only thing that we need to do is go over here, right? And right after the objective completes and so on, right? After we have our branch, we're gonna go ahead and update this, right? In this case, we have this node, but this isn't working, okay? Because we're trying to change by reference an array element, and it seems like Unreal doesn't really cooperate with that, okay? It's not going ahead and updating this check, right? Which is what we built. So we're gonna do it a bit differently, and let's manually go and do one thing, okay? So essentially, what we get to do is create a new variable, okay? And this will be the temp objective completed, right? And this will be a type s underscore quest objective, okay? So we are essentially gonna be creating a temporary variable that we will, just go ahead and change, right? So we can go ahead and, use it to specifically put what we want, okay? So it's gonna be very simple. What I'm going to do is go ahead and just try to fill this in, right? So set, boom, over here, right? I'm going to do is drag from here and make a quest objective, and I can, apply all of the little nodes and things like that, right? Cool. So with that said, it's very, very straightforward, right? What I need to do is fill everything in except the completed, what we're doing over here, right? So in this case, I'm gonna get it from the array element and break it once again, and then just plug everything in. So the name, eliminate chest objective, and is chest objective. And now, very important, we need to make sure that completed is true, okay? We are not gonna be, plugging this in because we're gonna make sure that it's active. And now that we have this variable, right, which is temp, activated, we're gonna do a very interesting thing. I'm gonna go ahead and access, okay, the active quest objective, right? So in this case, I think that we have the active quest, right? I'm gonna get it, right click, split it, right? And now we need to update this. So first of all, I'm gonna remove that objective and add a new one, which is this one, updated, right? So we're like replacing the index. So I'm gonna just say remove, sorry, if I know how to type, remove index, okay, no item, index, right? We're gonna plug this here, and then the index will be the specific one in our for loop, right? So let's just simply plug this here, right? And now we remove that quest objective from the quest, but now we need to add it back again. So I'm just simply gonna get the active quest, right? Split it again, get this, and just do an add, right? And what quest objective do we want to add? Well, my temporal one that now has that value updated, okay? I know that is a bit of a mess concept, but it's just a bit complicated, I know, but it just makes sense, right? We're gonna have to create a temporary variable, just saving everything except completed, which will enable. Then from the objectives list, we remove the specific one that we want to change, and then add once again the temporal one, which has this to complete, right? And now you will see that actually this will work. But I'm gonna just skip ahead and also do the enemy one before, right? So this is pretty much exactly the same thing. We can actually pretty much just copy and paste, I believe, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and copy this notes over here and also this one, right? So copy, paste, connect this over here. Now of course we need to connect some things over here, right? So first of all, we need to plug this right into here. So the array element, right, for each loop, drag it into the first break s quest objective, right? Cool. With that said, that's correct. And then on here we just need to plug in the index. So I'm gonna go to the for loop again, get the array index, drag it, okay, and just go ahead and place it on the remove index. Now we are removing a specific index on our quest list. And with that said, we're good to go, right? We are ready to play this. So if I now press play, right, go open the chest, right, the objective has marked as true. As you can see, there's a checkbox ticked at the top left. So if I now go ahead and save, right, exit and come again, boom, it is saved. As you can see, we have this on, and it will work exactly the same with the enemies, but of course I gotta take like 5 minutes to kill them because it's super hard to kill them. So you can try it for yourselves. But that's it. Okay, so that is the quest objective. But of course now we need one last thing, which is the time of day. Oh, yes, last thing, okay, for today. So let's close everything and just navigate into our levels folder and just go to our desert, right? So let's open up our desert variable, or not variable, sorry, level, right? And on here we need to make a change, okay? You'll see why but we need to do a big change, well, not big, but a little change for our time of day in terms of where it is saved. So as you may remember, we built our time of day in the level blueprint, so we can access over here, level blueprint, and just in the event tick is where we have the magic. The thing is that we built this on here because we have a direct reference to the directional light, but we're going to do this a bit differently, right? The thing is that we want to you know, save this thing, but we cannot really access, you know, from our game mode things from the level blueprint. So what we're going to do is go to the blueprints folder, right click, create a new blueprint class, and we will create a game state. Okay, base it will be because it's simpler. Let's name this GS for game state, GS, right? And as we just game state. Okay, now very important, we need to go to the wall settings and make sure that on the game state class we drag it in and replace it. If not, nothing will work. Let's double click over here, and now in this game state class is where we will do the calculation, and then the desert will feed this from here. So we just simply need to go right and get this to nodes, as simple as that, right? So just get this to nodes, paste over here, right? I need to right click, promote this to a variable, and let's see what it had, 3. All right, so let's delete this over here, compile, go here, update this to 3, compile. Okay, and now we're good to go. Now we just need to right click and to promote this to a variable, and this will be the sun rotation. Okay, cool. So with that said, we are saving this. So now the only thing we need to do is go to the desert, right? And from here in the, let's do it in the begin place. So let's add a new pin, right, to make it more organized. And I'm going to do is right click and say get game state, so we can get the class, but of course we need to cast to the specific one, which is our GS game state. I'm gonna simply right click, okay, and promote this to a variable, and this will be just, you know, the game state, right? So let's name it game state. Now from here, what I can do is get the game state and just get a reference to the rotation, the sun rotation variable that I just created. So now we can just plug this over here to the white page, right? And now we are doing the calculation on the game state and just fitting this with the reference of the directional light into here. So it's way easier. And you would notice that it actually works, right? Now you're probably wondering why I'm following. That's because we are saving our location from the other level and loading that incorrect location, well, incorrect not, but location only valid for the other level into this other level. So just simply just need to delete the save and save back over here, right? Just make sure that you know about that. But anyway, now the game still will work, right, in terms of the sun, but we need to save this, okay? So we are going to go, okay, back into our game mode, and on the save game, I'm gonna go, right, make some more space over here as we did, and simply do a quick thing, which is to get the game state, and as we did with the game mode, cast to the GS game state, okay, right, and we need to go and from, okay, so we need to go to the save game BP, of course. There we go. Add a new variable. This will be the sun rotation. This will be a float, right? Remember, compile, save, go back to the game mode. From the save game BP, drag it, say set sun rotation, right? We'll plug this in, connect this to the save game slot, and now from here we just simply get this, get rotation, sun rotation, and fill it in, okay, from the game state. And that's it. Compile, save. Now we of course need to load it back in, so I'm gonna also get the game state, this to nodes, right? I'm gonna go paste it over here, and we simply just need to go and say set sun rotation, right? And this will be from the save game BP. You'll get the rotation and just plug it over here. Okay, cool. So now we can just plug this here, and that's it. Okay, now the time of day will be also saved when we save the game, load it back in, and because we have everything on the game state from the level, we can fill that in. So that's pretty much it. Okay, so now we are also saving that, which is cool. So let me simply return to our default map, But basically that will work, and the cool thing is that it will only, you know, continue. Now, very important for this specific level, right? I just remembered, in the cast failed, make sure to connect this to the save game slot. Okay, let's double click and make like a reroute. And why? Well, imagine that we are in this level, right? And the game state fails or whatever, you're using another game state, right? If it fails, it wouldn't save the game. So we're just gonna make sure that we skip this if, for example, doesn't find that. But it should, because I have the class enabled, but just in case, you know. And cool. With that said, guys, that's it. If you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you like the video and subscribe to my channel. You might have full access to the project files through Patreon or YouTube members. The link is in the description. Join my Discord server, follow me on my socials, and now, yes, before I said, bye bye.